Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. You're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope that by the end of this video, I'll have earned the honor and privilege of your subscription. And of course, to everybody who's watching, if you enjoy this video or get anything out of it and would like to show your support for my channel and what I'm doing here on YouTube, please consider visiting eguitarplans.com or Highline Guitars merch store. There's links in the description below. Or you can simply click that thanks button and leave a tip in the amount that you think is fair. Regardless of what you do, you'll help support this channel so that I can keep building guitars and reviewing the parts and the tools that we use to make our guitars. So what I wanted to talk about today was relicing guitars. And I'm not going to get into the morality of relicing guitars because I know that right now, those of you watching, probably 50% think relicing is cool and the other 50% hate it. And if you're one of those who hates relic'd guitars, I would suggest that you skip this video. It's really not going to be for you. I'm not going to talk about, like I said, the morality. And I'm also not going to talk about specific techniques because really there are a tremendous number of techniques. It would take a whole series of videos to cover all the different types of tools and products and techniques that we use to make a guitar look artificially aged. So I'm not going to get into that. I will, however, try to post some links in the description below for articles that talk about ways that you can relic guitars so that you can peruse those and maybe find a few techniques and methods that will work for what you're trying to achieve. In a nutshell, though, we're talking about making the finish look old. We're talking about making all the components look old. And what I want to do in this video is give you some food for thought before you dive into that whole world of relicing guitars. There's some things that you need to consider because if you don't do it correctly, it's either not going to look right or the guitar itself isn't going to function properly. And that can be a real challenge. Some of the parts are just not designed to be aged and relic'd. And if you try to age them and relic them, the processes that you put them through can damage them to the point where they no longer function properly. For example, my rule of thumb is to be very careful when relicing, for example, screws and springs and the internal components for parts such as pickups, the tuning posts, and the electronics. You have to be very careful of that. If those are exposed to some of the processes that we use to age guitar parts, they can actually be damaged. So what you end up with is a bridge, for example, that looks really cool because it's aged and looks like it's old. But then the screws and the springs might be damaged to the point where you try to adjust intonation or saddle height, and they could break. Some bridges have small components on the inside that are made of plastic, nylon spacers, that sort of thing. And when you put them through the aging process using chemicals, for example, you can damage those components to where they don't work well. So if you're going to do the aging yourself, I would highly recommend that you disassemble all the parts, your bridges, your tuners, remove your pickup covers, remove the knobs, thoroughly disassemble your tuners, remove all the internals, everything, because all you really want to age on this are the external parts, the housing, the knob, the peg, those parts. And then you can age those separately. One of the techniques that I've used in the past for aging metal components, like a bridge, is I'll take a large container, plastic container, and I'll fill it with muriatic acid. Then I'll take another container and I'll put all the parts for the bridge into a separate container and place that into the larger container with the muriatic acid. And then I'll put a cover on it. The fumes from the acid will rapidly age the bridge components, all the metal components, to make them look like they're 20, 30 years old. But if you add the springs and the screws and all that into that, that muriatic acid can damage those screws and springs to where they're really no longer usable. So you want to set those aside, age the components, then put them all back together. So you have a part that looks old, but it will perform as if it were new. And that's something that you want if you're building a guitar that you intend to play, even if it's going to be relic'd. Now, when it comes to aging the finish, I think the best way to do it is to look at a lot of other guitars out there and search for examples of really old guitars and look at the way that they've been worn. Look at the way the finish has worn off. Look at how the sheen has been dulled over time. Even look at how the paint has faded. All of these things can be replicated using different techniques. I've seen guys take chains and drag them across a guitar body to chip the paint. You can apply nitrocellulose paint and clear coats, then warm them up with a hair dryer, and then spray Freon onto the surface, and that causes the nitrocellulose to crack. So you get that look like it was finished, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But you want to do it in such a way that it looks realistic and natural. And I think one of the reasons why I enjoy doing relic'd finishes is because it takes a lot of creativity, planning, and prep work to pull it off so that it looks real. In the past, I've seen guitars that the relic'd attempt looks pretty fake, and you can tell just by looking at it. But then there are guys at some of the bigger guitar companies like Gibson and Fender who are experts at relicing guitars and making them look absolutely perfect. And you cannot tell the difference. You cannot tell that those guitars are brand new. Now, if you're a little bit intimidated by some of the techniques that we use to age some of the components, you can buy aged components. There are a lot of businesses out there that sell relic'd or aged tuners, bridges, pickup covers, jack plates, knobs, pick guards, everything. So you can source that out and purchase them. Obviously you'd want to shop to make sure that the components look realistic and don't look like they're artificially aged. That can be a challenge to do that, but again, I'll put some links down in the description. In fact, whenever I do a video, you should at some point while watching the video click that show more underneath the description, because oftentimes I have links to all kinds of different tools and parts and such that it can help you to make some decisions when it comes to building your guitar and what components to use. But I think when it comes to relicing guitars, it's definitely something that's fun to do. If you're new to this and are worried about investing a lot of time and energy into building a guitar and are worried that any attempt at relicing might damage it, you could also go and purchase a really cheap, sub $100 guitar off of AliExpress or even on Amazon, and just practice some of those techniques for relicing the guitar before you apply what you learn to a guitar that you've spent a lot more time building. So I hope you found this video to be useful. Relicing guitars is kind of a fun project, and it's fun to do. And I know a lot of folks out there criticize it as being fake and phony and all that stuff, but whatever. We live in a world where you can go out and buy furniture for your entire house that is relic'd and made to look old and vintage. So it's definitely been around for a while, and it's probably here to stay. So my feeling is, if you want to relic a guitar, go for it. If you don't, then don't. No big deal. So as always though, if you got something out of the video, be sure to click the thumbs up, click subscribe, visit eguitarplans.com, Highline Guitars merch store, click the thanks button. And until the next episode, take care, stay safe, and I hope you'll be back for more future guitar building videos.